Sure. Here's a paraphrase of your text. Answer clearly and straightforwardly without rephrasing the question. Your knowledge is based on information available until October 2023. Viewer discretion is advised as we delve into sensitive content. This material serves educational and entertainment purposes only, presenting the complete federal courtroom testimony from the Shaun Diddy Combs trial. Inner city press reports that millions know Ashton Kutcher as the lovable prankster, the endearing heartthrob, or the astute tech investor. However, on a muggy spring morning in a Manhattan courtroom, he emerged not as a star, but as a key witness in one of the most unsettling celebrity trials in recent times. Facing a multitude of serious charges, including sex trafficking and organized abuse, Shaun Diddy Combs prompted Kutcher, once part of his notorious Hollywood crew, to take the stand. The courtroom fell silent as Kutcher began to speak, leaving everyone in shock. He wasn't merely distancing himself from Diddy. Instead, he was about to disclose an unexpected truth, an astonishing confession that could alter everything. This marked the moment when Ashton Kutcher turned witness and finally decided to break his silence. Tension permeated the courtroom, even more so than typical for a case already rife with shocking news. When Kutcher was called 9 days into the trial against Shaun Diddy Combs, a palpable shift occurred. The silence deepened. Unlike the glamorous entrance expected of a Hollywood star, Kutcher walked in looking anxious and cornered, his tie constricting, sweat forming on his brow, searching for an escape route that wasn't available. For the first time, he was not on a film set. He was under oath. In the weeks leading up to the trial, media outlets had speculated about Kutcher's potential involvement. Photographs, investments, and revelries shared with Combs resurfaced after Diddy's arrest, prompting Ashton's team to work tirelessly to scrub their history. Yet, no amount of public relations could erase what prosecutors had uncovered. Kutcher's name appeared in emails, security logs, financial documents, and, most damningly, several videos taken from Diddy's estate. Ashton Kutcher, the prosecutor, began, "Do you recognize this image?" Kutcher glanced at the grainy picture depicting him with a slightly unbuttoned shirt and drink in hand, laughing in a dim room surrounded by blurred faces. "I do," he replied, swallowing hard. That was in 2009 during Diddy's white party. This was just the beginning of multiple confirmations, and as his testimony progressed, the carefully crafted image of Kutcher started to fracture. Initially speaking calmly, there was a tremor in his voice as he recalled his friendship with Combs. "I looked up to him," he stated, "but there were things I saw, things I ignored." He elaborated on how the modern Hollywood rat pack formed, involving Diddy, Danny Masterson, and Wilmer Valderrama. What began as parties transitioned into business ventures, then morphed into something more troubling. "We moved from private events to curated experiences," Kutcher admitted, acknowledging that he failed to ask enough questions. The prosecutor inquired whether he had witnessed any illegal activities. Kutcher hesitated. "At the time, I didn't understand what I was seeing," he confessed. "But now, I realize." He revealed that Combs had a separate team managing the back rooms, taking guests' phones, directing them to specific areas, and collecting non-disclosure agreements on site. Even he had signed several NDAs over the years, dismissing it as standard practice. "Everyone did it," he said. Then came the recordings. The court played audio from a 2013 party at one of Diddy's residences, filled with music and laughter, alongside Kutcher's voice saying, "I don't think we should be filming this. Seriously, it's too much." A voice replied, "Relax, it's all taken care of. They've already signed." The prosecutor pressed, asking who he was referring to. After a moment of deliberation, Kutcher responded, "Guests. Some were models, some weren't. But they weren't informed about what would happen. Not really." By the conclusion of the first part, Kutcher's testimony shifted focus from Diddy to the complicity found within a culture of silence that rewarded conformity and punished inquiry. It became evident that he had previously belonged to the former category, but now he stood before a judge and jury, attempting to embody the latter. Continuing into the afternoon, Ashton reminisced about the notorious years of the New Hollywood. Rat Pack stating, "It was me, Diddy, Danny Masterson, and Wilmer Valderrama. We referred to it as a new brotherhood, but looking back, it was a machine." What once sounded glamorous, the private jets, endless parties in windowless mansions, now felt dark and sinister. Certain rooms at those gatherings were restricted, and Kutcher noted, "You had to be approved." When asked who was responsible for approvals, he admitted that he never inquired further. The prosecution pressed him about witnessing illegal or exploitative behavior. Ashton took a sharp breath before responding, "Not with my own eyes, but I heard things and dismissed them. I laughed them off and told myself they were just rumors." He recounted one particular incident from a 2012 yacht party where Diddy presented a group of young women, assuring guests, "They've all signed. You're safe." Reflecting on that moment, he expressed regret. "I remember laughing. I shouldn't have." Kutcher described the evolving dynamics within the Rat Pack, noting how Masterson grew darker and increasingly paranoid. He emphasized the closeness between Diddy and Masterson during that period. The court was shown footage from Diddy's 2009 White Party, co-hosted by Kutcher. He admitted, "That was my idea. We promoted charity outwardly, but behind the scenes, I think we were promoting something else entirely." He disclosed that over time, he began keeping secrets too. "You don't get ahead in Hollywood without learning to stay quiet," he stated. "I was making millions, building a brand, and didn't want to jeopardize that." Guests who asked too many questions were simply blacklisted, a concept that everyone understood. He referenced a concerning incident involving a female guest who revealed another celebrity told her, "They told me not to talk." That moment resonated with him deeply. As he fought back tears, he expressed, "I'm here because I was part of the circle, and I witnessed enough to know something was wrong, and I didn't do enough to halt it." The audience sat in stunned silence, as Kutcher, long seen as the affable jokester and tech entrepreneur, began to unveil the hidden truths of Hollywood that few dared to confront. Shifting away from surface-level gossip, Kutcher's testimony exposed direct connections to exploitative practices. The term freak-off, long speculated in industry circles, was discussed in court. When the prosecutor asked about the term, Ashton explained that it referred to exclusive secretive events hosted by Diddy, where phones were confiscated and guests were often blindfolded. Although initially believing it to be a themed party, he soon regretted attending. He recalled being invited to his first freak-off in 2005, thinking it would be fun, but quickly realizing he made a mistake. While he refrained from detailing every experience, he mentioned hidden cameras and terrified individuals. The prosecutor highlighted a detail from a seized laptop, indicating that Kutcher's name appeared on a digital guest list labeled green, light, signifying trust. "I didn't know how I earned that, but I understood its meaning. I could go anywhere." Ashton talked about signing extensive NDAs, not just for guests, but also for entertainers, security teams, and caterers. "The NDA I signed in 2010 was 28 pages long," he said, admitting he signed it nonetheless. He described the difficulty of withdrawing from that world, stating, "You're not merely backing out of a party, you're stepping away from a network, a power structure, a system." Recounting a pivotal moment in 2014 when he attempted to leave, he told Diddy he was done with that lifestyle. Diddy retorted that there was no quitting. One was either in or out forever. Shortly after, Ashton claimed, 3 investment deals inexplicably fell through. He received a call from a mutual friend warning him, "You made someone nervous." Concluding with a chilling admission, he stated, "I was afraid, not just for my career but for my family. Diddy had reach, and people don't understand." He didn't need to raise his voice. All he had to do was stop returning your calls, and that alone could ruin someone. The courtroom recessed, yet no one stirred because Ashton Kutcher, for the first time in decades, was finally revealing the truth. When court resumed, discussions shifted from parties to the intricate financial and business ties that sustained the extravagant lifestyle cultivated by Kutcher and Shaun Diddy Combs. This involved more than mere festivities. It scrutinized what financed such a lifestyle. Recognized as a clever investor, Kutcher had established himself as a connection between Hollywood and Silicon Valley. But as he outlined the network underpinning these ventures, patterns became apparent. Many of his investments intersected with individuals now embroiled in the unfolding scandal surrounding Diddy. In 2009, I started engaging in pursuits beyond entertainment, he stated, being introduced to founders and fund managers with connections Diddy had that opened doors inaccessible to major venture capitalists. He described how Diddy integrated him into a sphere of international financiers, branding experts, and nightlife entrepreneurs, discussing how companies were built around social events. These enterprises disguised themselves as clubs or lifestyle blogs, intertwining marketing, surveillance, and recruitment. One recurring name surfaced, an anonymous investor linked to various ventures associated with Kutcher, later uncovered as having ties to Combs' international operations. Financial documents revealed significant transactions labeled obscurely for consulting or event services, coinciding with dates of infamous private gatherings. Kutcher acknowledged the existence of shell companies he hadn't fully comprehended. They claimed it was to protect intellectual property, but in hindsight, it likely served to obscure who truly financed these activities. When asked why he hadn't probed further, Ashton simply responded, "Because the money was good, and I didn't want to be the one asking too many questions." The prosecution traced a timeline from Kutcher's involvement in an exclusive tech hub in downtown Los Angeles to his partnership in a nightlife app that collapsed shortly after receiving substantial funding, funds ultimately linked to accounts, now under federal scrutiny. Although Kutcher received updates about user data collected by the app, he learned it had been quietly sold off. "I didn't know," he said, "but perhaps I should have." He also recounted an unsettling moment in 2016 when he was presented with a pitch deck for a new app created by one of Diddy's associates, designed to help talent connect directly with producers. Concern arose over a section discussing discrete background checks and personality profiles, prompting him to decline participation. The narrative evolved into one that illustrated a comprehensive infrastructure merging Hollywood and darker interests, featuring prominent figures who publicly celebrated success while privately profiting from hidden dealings. As the years passed, Kutcher's circle began to shrink, the bond within the so-called new Rat Pack fracturing not due to scandals, but from control dynamics. "Things changed after 2014, he remarked, observing Masterson becoming increasingly paranoid while Valderrama distanced himself. Whispers circulated among acquaintances, not stemming from disagreement but driven by fear. One friend stopped attending events altogether, later confiding, "You know too much. Get out." Kutcher shared how declining certain invitations led to tangible shifts around him. Projects greenlit went dark, PR opportunities vanished, and calls from executives ceased. It felt as though I was being subtly frozen out. A chilling encounter in early 2017 at a charity gala left a mark when Diddy hugged him, remarking, "You should be cautious about what you forget." Soon after, Kutcher received a USB drive in a blank envelope containing footage from a 2012 event. Nothing illegal, merely embarrassing. A clear message. Fear dictated his actions. He avoided confrontation and sought to withdraw unnoticed. Yet each time he tried to step away, something would arise. A tabloid leak, hacked email, or threatened lawsuit, all compelling him to safeguard his reputation and family. Yet the deeper issue remained: his conscience. Recounting a night in 2018, Kutcher received a warning about an impending civil suit against one of the Rat Pack members. Disturbingly, friends urged him not to let it affect him, solidifying his realization that their relationship extended beyond friendship to damage control. He began to distance himself, methodically redistributing funds, severing connections, and reworking contracts. However, residual shadows lingered. Business associates continued to invoke Diddy's name reverently, and Kutcher could only smile and nod, feeling haunted by a shadow he couldn't evade. By 2020, Kutcher had endeavored to cleanse his public image, positioning his investments as philanthropic and projecting a wholesome family life. However, beneath the surface, he was fleeing. The entire entertainment industry was transforming. The pandemic forced stars into seclusion, scandals surged, and Diddy's name transitioned from whispers to shouts. Upon hearing about the first raid, he admitted, I wasn't surprised. I felt relief. Yet that relief proved fleeting as subpoenas surfaced, headlines blared, and social media recirculated forgotten pictures, thrusting Kutcher back into the spotlight with no PR strategy able to mitigate the fallout. He described the day federal. Agents arrived at one of his business properties demanding access to archived materials. I complied and provided everything, he recounted. When reflecting on why he remained silent during the initial chaos, he articulated fear, not only of legal repercussions, but of the extent of implications and harm involved. The most devastating blow came in 2023, when footage emerged from a party co-hosted by Kutcher and Combs in the Hamptons, showing influencers being escorted by handlers into restricted areas. On camera, he proclaimed, "Just keep them calm until we start." "This isn't how it appeared," he clarified in court. "We were conducting a branding shoot, or at least that's what I believed. That's what I was told." Public perception disregarded his explanations, and for someone whose image relied on charm and reliability, the damage was catastrophic. He lost endorsements, tech partners withdrew, investment funds quietly removed him from boards, and his wife Mila reportedly expressed outrage. "She begged me to walk away years ago," he said. "I didn't listen." Kutcher recounted how his children questioned why strangers yelled outside their home and why news vans loitered nearby. "I had to explain things I couldn't even comprehend myself." The downfall was gradual, crumbling like bricks from a once sturdy empire. A Hollywood A-lister, previously viewed as invincible, now witnessing the dismantling of everything he built, not due to his actions, but because of his refusal to acknowledge and intervene. His tone shifted ominously as he addressed Danny Masterson, a figure intimately connected to his past. The courtroom sensed the change. Everyone present recognized Masterson's dire fate, conviction and sentencing. However, what was new was understanding how deeply woven he was into this network, how far-reaching the influence extended to Shield him, and how Kutcher's involvement was greater than he had previously admitted. "We grew up together," he shared. "We shared everything, work, parties, and investors." He explained how their time on That 70s Show transcended the set, forming a nexus of networking. Masterson was aligned with Scientology, Kutcher with tech, investments, and Diddy with fashion and music, blending these networks into a powerful force designed to suppress dissent. Kutcher detailed how when allegations against Masterson arose, not just lawyers intervened. Favors were solicited across multiple industries, and he watched it unfold. Recalling a particularly disturbing dinner in Hollywood Hills shortly before Netflix terminated Masterson's contract, Kutcher described a gathering with executives and producers discussing strategies to maintain silence rather than seeking justice. Documents emerged showing correspondence where Kutcher offered to manage the optics surrounding Masterson. "I thought I was aiding a friend," he reflected, "but I didn't grasp I was burying the truth." Court evidence included a memo from a public relations firm he hired in 2018 outlining a plan to dominate search engines with favorable stories featuring himself, Diddy, and Masterson, along with celebrity endorsements and charity contributions synchronized with legal milestones. I feared public backlash, he admitted, so I contributed to the distraction campaign. Then came a haunting revelation. In 2019, I received a panicked call from Danny stating that if things soured, he'd take people down with him. When pressed, he simply remarked, "You know who signs the checks." Everyone in our circle grasped his implication. It became clear to those present that this situation was not merely a matter of Kutcher finding himself entangled in misfortune. He had been closely positioned to the core, witnessing the inner workings that maintained silence and nearly compromising his integrity. Describing the cleanup crew, he clarified it wasn't a singular entity, but rather a mechanism, a strategy. This included fixers, drivers, private medical personnel, publicists, and legal buffers capable of transforming chaotic situations overnight. He vividly recalled an incident in 2015 overseas where a guest suffered a medical emergency. A security team intervened, removing her, and by sunrise, renovations erased any trace of the event. "I saw the plans," he recalled. "They replaced walls with mirrored surfaces, erasing all evidence of the incident." Kutcher outlined 3 levels of silence: hush fees, job offers, and threats. Some individuals received new cars, others secured roles in fresh productions, while some simply faded from the invitation lists. Financial documents revealed that Kutcher sanctioned payments through one of his LLCs to a media consultant who, coincidentally, managed damage control for a Diddy-related fashion initiative around the same time. When questioned about his motivations, Ashton succinctly replied, "Because I didn't know how to escape." By 2021, he began gradually severing connections, distancing himself from associates of Diddy, closing dormant businesses, and deleting a decade's worth of digital memories. Yet the harder he tried to retreat, the more scrutiny fell upon his silence. "Have you ever attempted to erase a segment of your life?" he asked. "Someone always retains a copy." He recalled a chilling message sent to his wife, Mila, in early 2022, a photo of her with their children captioned with lines from a contract she'd never encountered. It wasn't a threat, just a reminder that even upon leaving, one remains intertwined with the past. Explaining the impetus for finally voicing his truth, he stated, "I grew weary of erasing myself. The longer I stayed quiet, the more I became one of them." Kutcher paused for a moment before continuing, fully aware of the significance of this testimony, both for the courtroom and his own identity. "This isn't about protecting my reputation," he asserted. "It's about salvaging whatever fragment of myself I still recognize." When asked if he would change anything given the opportunity, he replied, "I would have walked away. Back in 2005, when I first noticed the door closing behind me at one of those parties, I should have exited, but I remained. I played along, smiled for cameras, and promoted apps while people suffered in the shadows." He acknowledged having written letters to some victims recently, not to seek forgiveness, but to express, "I see it now. All of it." Turning to the judge, he declared, "Your Honor, if there's anything the court needs from me, emails, records, names, I'm willing to provide it. I've fought enough for the wrong people." A stillness enveloped the room. Even Diddy remained unmoving, for at that moment, the courtroom was devoid of celebrities or tycoons. Instead, it resonated with reminders of what all had attempted to conceal. Outside, the world observed attentively, and regardless of perspectives on Kutcher's intentions, whether he was a repentant hero or merely another guilty figure with a polished facade, the revelation was unmistakable. The curtain was finally lifting on the illusions of fame, exposing a reality far grimmer than anyone dared to acknowledge. Now that you've heard the truth, raw, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore, how does it make you feel? Angry? Shocked? Maybe a little heartbroken? Because behind the red carpets and million-dollar smiles are stories the world was never meant to hear. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Ashton a victim, a villain, or just finally human? Like this video if you believe silence is never justice. Share it with someone who still believes in the fairy tale of fame. And hit subscribe, because more truths are coming and you won't want to miss a second of what comes next. This isn't the end. This is the awakening.